can't be mortal.
Welcome, Mere Mortalites, to another round of the Mere Mortals Musings. We are live here, as usual, on a Sunday morning, this being the 31st of August, 2025. You have Kyron on this side.
You've got Juan here on the other side.
Brilliant. And we are here to do a musing session. For those who are unaware, musings is where we deep dive into a particular topic that we have chosen. We give some practical philosophy, effective philosophy, thoughts and ideas. And today I chose this one, and we're talking about silent killers.
Silent killers.
Talking about serial killers. No, wrong. We're not. We're actually going to be talking about something I hinted at in last week's episode, which was asbestos poisoning in particular, who, unfortunately, my old next door neighbor from when I was a kid passed away, R.I.P. Jeff. And that was kind of shocking because I just had no idea. My dad mentioned it offhand. It was from sometime like last year. So it's just, it's kind of like, it reminded me of like, my mum passed away last year as well. So there was two kids who I grew up with. One who was close to my age, the boy, Lockie, and he, what was the age difference? I'm going to say like 3 years. So I was just like, damn, he probably had a very similar experience these last couple of years as what I did.
True.
Watching a parent pass away slowly. His father's cause of death was related to asbestos, his actual work. So yeah, it just got me thinking more about like these kind of silent killers, things that in the everyday atmosphere or in your house, or things which they can come and get you. And in particular, I was really thinking about stuff that shortens your lifespan by, let's say, like 10 years, 20 years plus, where there's always going to be a silent killer. Someone's going to get you eventually. Unless you're Juan and gonna go beyond what's it called, where you're running ahead of the
longevity escape velocity.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So unless you're like Juan and can do that, most of us will pass away of something.
Correct.
So it's more the particularly environmental factors which I'm really thinking about now, which can get you. So I was reading this book at the moment, and book review coming out next week, called Bad Science, which is ridiculing, and rightly so, most of the kind of quack ideas out there. This is particularly being things like homeopathy, of calling out like journalists for in bad interpretations of science, and then also the mainstream media of hyper like focusing on things which aren't actually a big deal, and not focusing on things which are
a big deal,
and because it's not sexy or it's not glamorous or it doesn't show, things like this. So yeah, how do we think about it? How can one examine history to avoid these things, or et cetera, et cetera? So I'll give a little demonstration of things across history. Lead poisoning, radiation, cigarettes, smog. I don't know if I'd call bloodletting necessarily a silent killer. That's more, I guess, like a practice that people thought was good, but actually was. So we could include in that things that are happening now, which people think are good for them, but actually isn't. Cholera from contaminated water, for example. And then there was two which I hadn't really heard of before: vinyl chloride and chromium. So there's a whole list there. Where should we start, Juan? We'll start off with the easy one.
Well,
is there something now which is a silent killer that you think will be a big deal in?
Well, I think
20, 30
before
years time?
I think before we do that, I think we have to define it just slightly on the silent killer front.
Okay.
Because all those ones that you mentioned, it's something that right now we don't see it for whatever reason. We don't see it. We don't have the data. We don't have there's some sort of like latency on things starting to happen for it to then reflectively go like, oh shit. I guess the other way, it's like, what would our kids ban that we are doing right now? Because if you look back at some of those, right, lead paint, at the time. If people just be like, oh, we use this and whatever, and then information, data, whatever comes out, and then you just become aware. And today, I'm fairly sure that it's banned. Like you can't just go about buying lead paint. Like people don't make paint that's got lead in it, but I'm sure it exists in the world, just like asbestos exists in the world still because of houses and places being built with it.
There's probably still some warehouses full of lead paint, and maybe I don't know if they'd be allowed to sell it. Probably not, but certainly not produce it.
So it's probably So I guess I was thinking on that. Yeah, what are my kids or my kids generation gonna like ban?
Yeah,
that will then go like, oh shit, like we should have been smarter if we had these things. But sometimes it's like you're not gonna have it. So, I guess that's kind of like how I'm coming about it. But I guess we can go like one to one and just being like, what are things that you've thought or have come up or have seen and whatnot, and go from there.
Yeah. So I guess the problem with the banning aspect as well is that you can ban things, but people will still want to do it. Cigarette smoking, for example, or like smoking just in general. Banning it's probably not like it's hard to get past. Maybe it should be banned, but because it'll save like the healthcare of a nation multiple, probably billions, if not trillions of care and things like that a lot of times governments pay for. But you also want to give people free choice, and if they want to kill themselves by doing something, then have at it.
So
we don't ban people from snowboarding, even though that can kill people, or base jumping and stuff. So vaping. Would you put vaping into the category right now? So we know cigarettes and smoking can cause lung cancer and stuff. Do you think vaping is going to be one of the ones where in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years time? Because I've heard it's bad, but not as bad as smoking.
See, this is what I'm put a disclaimer that a lot of the things we're about to talk is like health and scientific related. We're not the most detailed
I'm not a doctor.
Knowledge of this. Because I was going to say, what in a vape would be cancerous? Because I thought it was just flavored some nicotine.
Yeah, I thought it was actually the doing damage. Wasn't it the oils were like doing stuff to the esophagus and lungs? Once again, I don't know much about this, but this is one of those ones where I was like
what's the difference between vaping and shisha?
I'm actually not sure.
What's the difference between what's the difference between inhaling not just like steamy air, but like oil infused steam, which they do at like really fancy massage places and whatnot. Like what's the difference in that? I'm not sure.
Actually, this gets to a point which I think about with some of these things when I want to approach if I think something is good for my health or not, which is I'll take a really broad stroke of something. So me, for one, I hate inhaling hot gases, and actually even just hot things and liquids in general.
Yeah.
So my general rule is, no smoking, and that doesn't matter if it's cigarettes, cigars, or like marijuana, and whether that be marijuana through a blunt or through a bong. As shisha, I put up in there as well. Vaping. I went for this photo shoot with a friend of mine once. He was just amateur photographer. I wanted some photos, and he was talking about, oh yeah, we can do this. And he brought a vape along, and he was asking me like, oh hey man, here, take this and blow this, and we'll get some like really cool photos with the smoke coming out.
Yeah.
And this was when vaping. This was what year? This would have been 2017, maybe 2018. And I remember just being like, I knew nothing about vaping at all, and I just was going like, my general rule at the time, and still is, I don't want to inhale like hot gases or things. So I put it aside. Is that going to expand my life or extend my life, or, well, probably not extend my life, but will it prevent me from shortening my life? I don't know. but I feel this is one of the ones where if you'd done this across history, you'd have saved yourself a lot of lung cancer and other related things, even though you couldn't have necessarily proven 45, well, let's say 100 years ago that smoking is bad for you. So
yeah, I was just gonna say a quick little check. It does say that beyond nicotine, vapes do have something like the synthetic liquid propylene glycol and vegetable glycerine, and they do have some flavorers, but it might have heavy metals just from the actual heating coils and some other carbonyl compounds and matter and stuff like that they have. So maybe there's more than just the nicotine that might prove bad. I think because again, the reason I was wanting to define it, which is different, because when we say silent killers, and why I was kind of going down the path of doesn't have to be a full ban, but what people would want to like shun away is because like a lot of actions in life can lead to death. This is the thing, right? So when we're saying, what are the silent killers? What if the data comes out and it's like, oh, actually, 40% of snowboarders die if you're like snowboarding and like don't know what you're doing and you're going without a helmet, and it's like, oh, we should ban that. So it's like, not really. That's like a very like the risk. Like the risk seems fairly obvious as opposed to something that doesn't seem it. So
that's the silent killer aspect. It's silent because we're not aware that it's a risk.
Yeah, so, I guess I'd say like I might put vaping as a silent killer.
Yeah, but I'd also, I think there's probably already, I've heard enough things already that saying that vaping is not great for your lungs or your brain. So that one is probably already in the like, it's a fucking lousy, lazy burglar sneaking into the night killer. Like it's fucking hidden some things as it's walking in. Like it's a drunk burglar or a drunk serial killer. It comes in, fucking makes a bunch of noise. So you got a bit of time to prepare before it comes into your room.
Yeah, it's not super silent, but like it's advising that it's here. The other one I guess I thought would just be like microplastics. So I would say that will become a silent killer. A lot of this as well is why will they be deemed more as silent killers is because people are living longer. So, if you take it 1,000 years back and people were smoking cigarettes, probably no one would have known because everyone's dying just way earlier.
Yeah.
So then
the cholera and plague is getting them before
if you had
the lung cancer.
If you had to go back to let's go a million.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If you go back a million years ago, there probably wasn't a lot of people with cancer. Right?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it? Because they're not living to have cancer.
Yeah.
So,
and this is actually kind of I don't know the term for it. It's like a scientific term where it's like this exact point. Oh, there's like this tremendous amount of like increase of cancer in the world or increase of XYZ. This is terrible. It's like, yes, in and of itself, it's a bad thing that people are dying because probably they don't want to, or especially the way they're dying. But it's the rise and increase is because people are living
the problem is
long.
say with any age-born diseases, which is what like they tend to say, things like cancer or cardiovascular disease or Alzheimer's, dementia. Those are proportional to the extension of life, which makes it more available for people that have that. Because again, you're not going to have, you can have cancer and all of these other diseases when you're younger, but it is very rare. But it becomes more prevalent when you're 50, 60, 70, 80. And for a lot of time, we just didn't have humans who existed. Like the general average wasn't that high. And now it's becoming more and more and more. We're probably going to see that more. So those are, we're not terming that as silent killers, I guess, because we know about them. But I would say something like microplastics, again, we haven't been using plastics for that long when you think about it from like a human timeline perspective. But
100 years,
I think we'll start seeing that in 50 years' time, where we've now used a lot of plastics in a lot of the things we do. That will start showing up in humans, like what we are, like in our 60, 70-year-olds, and go like, oh shit, you've got like plastic-related issues. What that looks like, because I know I've heard people say like they can find microplastics in the brain, microplastics in blood,
in your balls,
in your balls. So is that going to start causing those sort of problems after like a buildup of 20, 30 years. So I would put that down as a strong signal, I reckon, that if we're already seeing today the plastics in the body, I think that's going to cause some issues in long term down the line, and we'll go, shit, again, will it get to the point that they'll ban it? Again, that's kind of like with smoking. I don't know if they will or not, just because of the practicality, but yeah, I would say that's a strong proponent to it. At least for me personally, I do try to avoid as much as possible plastics. Am I still going to buy water bottles and that whenever I have to? Absolutely. But I will avoid heating now stuff in plastic containers. That's absolutely, I'll not do that anymore.
Sure.
Glass and metal as much as possible to hopefully combat some of that.
Yeah, so this is once again, our strategies. I'm sure there's like doctors and people or someone who's real into the plastic.
Exactly, correct. Yeah.
It'll be like,
I listened to a 4-hour podcast on it from Peter Attia with someone else, and I listened to it at 2x. So I was like, I want to be aware,
sure,
but I don't want to like know the nitty gritty. And of course, like you can go and listen to like ridiculous levels of details on it, on like the pros and cons and how to avoid it and what to do and all that sort of stuff.
But I think the thing they'll probably say is, one, the plastic's like it's not in the actual Tupperware containers and heating of that's going to get you. That's not how it's entering your body. It's in the fucking water system for something like that, where it's, I feel that's probably more likely our trying to get to the point of just because you know about something, your resultant actions to avoid it as well probably aren't going to be optimal unless you're highly detailed and know specifically in your area of Brisbane the water's connected up to this thing, so yes, I'll need a filtration system, and I'll also need to like make sure I'm not like touching receipts, for example, and getting BPA or whatever the fuck that is. When you hear of something, so like the microplastics, sounds like you investigated this, listened to a podcast, they probably had some recommendations of like, here's the top things to avoid. Was that on their list? Don't heat things in plastic containers.
Yeah, heating.
What about just storing things in plastic?
The other one was
like
as well,
food
just like
as well.
yeah, like so. Not so much the storing of it, but especially purchasing food that is like wrapped in plastic as well. That's another big one, just because it like just sits with it for a long time. Some of the other things I was saying about plastic. I was saying like for kids, obviously plastic toys versus wooden toys, like that difference, because kids will just chew in the plastic or they eat the plastic and stuff like that. So there's that as well. I think those are the main ones that I can remember.
Yeah. And this is where I just go, okay, Kyron from, I'm going to say like 2014, sometime around then, also was investigating this, and I have stored by and large in glass bowls and containers since then, so like 10 plus years. Has it made any noticeable impact on my health? No, of course not. Has it also been a detriment? No. Once I bought all the glass bowls and stuff, fine, easy.
Yep.
So that's just one of those ones where it's like, I just know the amount of research I put into it at that time was so fucking minimal that I don't know if that's actually had a significant impact. Maybe I was aware of that this could potentially be a problem, but my resultant actions and changes were so half-assed and baked that I don't know if it's actually... I've really done that much to protect myself.
I'll make like...
have I got less microplastics in my system right now compared to then? I haven't measured it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I wouldn't term this as a silent killer, but it's like a similar concept. So there is undoubtedly, unless again we merge with machines and something changes, there is a standard type of time when you hit sarcopenia and like a reduction of your bone mass in all humans.
What's sarcopenia?
Sarcopenia is the loss of muscle mass, and then you've got the equivalent as well from a bone mass perspective.
Okay.
It happens at around 70 years old for most humans, a little bit younger when you're female, a little bit older when you're a male. It just happens. There's nothing you're going to do about it. But, I wouldn't term that it's a silent killer, that you don't train enough, in your youth, in your 20s and your 30s, to gain the muscle, to gain the bone mass density that you need. In fact, bone density is grown when you're 8 years old or 12 years old, right? So like around that time is your most profitable part of gaining bone density. You continue to gain it until like 30 years, and then it starts decreasing. So I wouldn't have said it's a silent killer, but that aspect of it, hey, if you don't train and you gain good muscle quality and muscle mass and bone density in your 10-year-old, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, again, you probably won't notice it. It'll be like no one's having a conversation in the 30s and 40s to be like, hey, my bone density is a bit low today. I can really feel it. No, you don't say that. But when you hit your 70s and 80s, if you're lucky enough to get there, then you're going to notice, because the difference between those who have good bone density and those who don't, because you just start declining no matter what, is between someone falling and breaking their hips and are dead in like 50% chance you're dead in a year, or you falling and not breaking your hip because your bone density is so high. So I wouldn't have said that is a silent killer, but it's the exact example of, hey, that's going to get you. You don't realize it, but that is going to get you unless you're doing something differently now. I guess I see it in like the microplastics in that way. Absolutely. Next 10, 20 years, we're not going to bat an eyeball. I'm sure there's nothing that we're going to probably see. But the silent killer aspect of it is maybe at the 70, 80-year-old, it's like, oh, there's enough buildup of microplastics in your brain that now it's actually caused, I'm not going to say like Alzheimer's, but it's caused some deficiency in your brain that now is detrimental in whatever. That's probably the silent killer aspect of it, that we won't see it in the immediacy, but we'll see it in 20, 30, 40 years when maybe enough of that plastic buildup causes that, or causes, blockages in terms of arteries, or it causes some other types of problems that it's like, oh shit, that's happened because of the gradual buildup of it. Okay, if someone says, oh, well, if you had glass, the entire time for 50 years, you would have 30% less more, and so you wouldn't be in this problem. So I guess that's the silent killer aspect, as opposed to like cigarettes, where it's now like obvious that it's creating, or like it's amplifying carcinogenic properties to give you cancer and lung cancer specifically. I think it'll be not as obviously like directly bad as that, but will create some havoc in the years to come.
Sure. Last kind of point of maybe the past, and then after the Boostagram Lounge, we'll go a little bit more looking forward and actions that we can take. You mentioned the bone density there, 8 to 12, and the first thing that came to my mind was like calcium. Is Vienna getting calcium? That's the kind of thing that you need to do, right? Like if you want bone density, you need calcium. And I have no idea. I'm inclined to think that this is probably not the case. Does it really matter if you're drinking milk at 8 to 12 years old to get that calcium, or can you just get it naturally through your food nowadays? I don't know. I just remember when I was a kid, it was a big thing. Got to get that milk in you, boy. Calcium. You need the calcium, and calcium's important. And it just goes to think.
I'll give you some details on that. And again, people look it up to actually get the specifics, because again, the bad science aspect. The milk, like the milk, when you drink milk, the calcium that you do get, for sure, because for bone growth, you need calcium. All right, part of that element is used to build bone density. But when you also drink milk, there's aspects of the milk itself that actually leaches calcium from your bones as well. So yes, you do get calcium, but it also utilizes some of that as well. But to your point, no, you don't. Do you get calcium from just like your general eating? You do if you've got a pretty balanced life. Any of like your dark green, leafy type things, they've got a ton load of calcium. So yes, you don't necessarily really have to have milk, but you've got to get it from somewhere in your diet. And in general, as much as I understand, if you've got a balanced diet with enough other items that are calcium rich, again, you can have like nuts and stuff like that, then you're fine. Like it's not like you absolutely need the milk to do that. It's just the most commonly known for a general human of like, oh, I've been told it's got calcium, so I've got to drink that. But yeah, there's loads of other ways you can get it.
Yeah, and this gets to the media point, which was I got 2 book recommendations, and the reason I bring this up is we'll have to talk about, okay, how do we even hear about the silent killer aspect? Like, where do we get our data from and things like this? Because if you look back in the past, there's not only been, a lack of knowledge, it's silent, no one's talking about it, no one knows about it, But then you can even have the opposite aspect where it is known, but you get a huge pushback by invested interests to make sure, for profit reasons, that it isn't regarded as something bad. Look up the book Merchants of Doubt, and that really goes over how the smoking companies, Philip Morrison, the big brands, really squashed, manipulated science and scientists and the media to make it seem that there was just enough doubt that the link between smoking and lung cancer was tenuous, even though if you dived into it, it was pretty fucking clear. So Merchants of Doubt, Naomi Oreskes, and some other guy, I can't remember his name. And then in Bad Science, the Ben Goldacre was saying, okay, there was this woman from the 2010s. She was talking about how turmeric can, I'll get the exact wording wrong, but it was essentially like, if you take more turmeric, it's going to help prevent against some sort of cancer. And it was like a very specific statement in a newspaper. And he goes into it and he's like, look, there was this one study, it showed this. She extrapolated from this, or he extrapolated, can't actually remember the exact thing. And to get the amount of benefit that they're claiming, you'd need to eat like a handful of turmeric. Do you know how fucking hard that is? It's impossible. It's kind of like eating a spoonful of cinnamon sort of deal.
Yeah.
So not only is the like interpretation of things all fucking whack, but you can get the media, the newspapers, however you consume your information, podcasts nowadays, books. If you just hear something and it's like a one-off thing and you go, oh, that's something bad, I'm going to avoid that from now on, that's probably not a great strategy to have. If it's concerning enough, you probably should dive into it more and put in like hours of research into, okay, what exactly is the bad thing about XYZ topic? And then going forward from there.
Yeah, especially health stuff when it's like pretty important.
Yeah,
like,
this
spend some time on it.
Gets onto the general health topics, which are really fucking hard. So we'll jump into the Boostagram Lounge now. And this is the area where we thank supporters of the show for helping keeping the Mere Mortals running, as well as giving us a bit of feedback and comments. Was there any this week?
There were done. There were lots of streams that went through, but
sorry, people, it's not going on.
Not going on.
The Chuck's cloth beanie hat.
Chuck stays off. But yes, lots of streams that I could see coming through. Yeah. Obviously, there's more streams on the separate stream pile. So for those who are doing that, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But no Boostagram. I think we talked about it in the monthly goals. Cole mentioned. Yeah, it seems like the utilization of Boostagrams is going exclusively at the moment to Bitcoin specific podcasts, and we're not that. But for those who support by comments, by watching this live, by sharing it as well, always appreciated. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked about microplastics. You actually mentioned, okay, if I was to say, all right, Juan, over the next week, you got to do some research into silent killers and what are some potential things. You've got a young baby girl, Vienna. What are some things that you're going to look up, research, so that she doesn't get impacted over the next 40 years of her life, for example, or let's say 60 years? How would you go about trying to research something like this?
Yeah, that's interesting. How would I go about researching it?
Is it something that can be done intensely as well? Because all of these things,
I think it has to be predictive. I think it has to be predictively. I think it has to be in association with what the continued life would look like in 20 or 30 years' time. Because some of the ones we've kind of already talked about, either I've heard of them before, and the reason they're silent killers is because it's very, very rare to be able to see them in the moment until enough data builds up. So all I can really think is if I had to research it to set it up in the right way, it would have to be, what is the potential world look like in 20, 30 years time, and what are maybe like practices or things that are from the past, from like all the stuff that we talked about, what are maybe equivalent or very non-naturalistic methods of existence do they exist that might continue, that might make things worse. So like an example, and it's interesting because we live next to a main road, there could be one to be like pollutants, so pollutants from diesel and everything else. So that could be one aspect that I go, okay, well, might be the avoidance, or what are those machines called, HPACs or whatever, for clean air filtration or something like that. You know, there could be that idea of research of like, okay, well, how much of an impact is that? So that could be something else that I study. But to be honest, and this is one of the things that I was going to say, was you want to be risk averse, but you also want to be realistic in that how much of these things that we say, I don't know about plastics, but let's just say bad air, like air pollution or other things, how much of that just becomes null and void if you just eat well and sleep well, right? Like if you have a good system of filtration by just keeping yourself moving and being in a healthy state, how much of that then just kind of negates all of these other things that we're talking about? Because yes, we do think that they're silent killers, but do I think that anything I can think about right now is like as bad as smoking and like a direct cause of, like, no matter what you're doing, if you're smoking, unless you have good genetics for it, you're going to get cancer from like a lung cancer perspective. So unless you got good genetics. But is there a potential that, okay, you might live in a noisy, stress, ridden world, but you've got a really good practice of sleeping and exercising to be able to, filter your own system per se, or just keep it strong, then it's kind of like, oh, then it doesn't matter. I almost thinking about it in that way. So like, because the one I was going to say was one of the silent killers that comes to mind is going to be the excessive luxury, is going to be a prosperous world. Okay. That's going to be a silent killer. Why do I think a prosperous world is going to be a silent killer? Because you're going to have a fast forward 30 years if AI does come to pass and all jobs disintegrate and everyone just becomes, for want of a better word, more lazy. So, less training, maybe more time people go partying. You have the more freedom to go and do things. I think a more prosperous world will lead to more silent killer type behavior as your sleeping, training, eating behaviors just deteriorate. So you could term it two ways. You could say silent killer is like reducing all of those things, or I do feel like a more prosperous world, I reckon, is going to introduce a silent killer behavior in that just people are lazy byproduct of it. But I don't know from a research perspective how I would go about doing that, because I really could only go with what I either predict and then maybe data that's related to that. But even that would be so difficult to really extract right now.
Yeah. You mentioned, I'll jump back to the researching. I laughed initially at luxury, but when I think of it, probably like what's been the biggest silent killers over the last, like, let's say 10 years, loneliness. Loneliness is now kind of one of those ones where you can have serious data saying, it's more on the social aspect for sure. How do you know if someone's lonely? Well, you have to just ask them, like, what are your interactions are on a daily basis or a weekly basis? Do you have someone you could call a good friend? What's your connection like with your family, et cetera, or work colleagues? And that is purely social, from what I can tell. It's not, or perhaps it's like, the loneliness causes you, or therefore like incentivizes you or makes you do other activities, which then shorten your lifespan. So is the loneliness the direct killer? No, it's the associated things with being lonely that perhaps kill you, or perhaps maybe it is. Maybe if you're just like sitting in on your own, feeling bad, your brain cells are actually deteriorating or something like that. I don't know. That could be
all those monks going and doing silent retreats.
They're
killing themselves.
But there's variations of loneliness as well. Like involuntary loneliness is probably much worse than voluntary loneliness.
I mean, I feel like that would be more like solitude as opposed to like loneliness. Yep.
Exactly. So that's one of those ones where it's like, okay, and related to health as well. When I think of something like nutrition, it's got a section in the bad science book, because nutrition is just one of those topics where people always fucking get it wrong and make broad sweeping claims, interpret data. And I think the thing with these silent killers is, okay, lead poisoning is going to fuck you up. It doesn't matter if you're from Africa. It doesn't matter if you're from Asia. It doesn't matter where you're from. Man, woman, whatever. Same with radiation. Same with like lung cancer and smoking.
Yep.
If you are on a like red meat diet or something, or you figure out that, you know, carnivore diet's the diet for you, you feel better, and you can prove like, oh, so many people have expanded their lifespans or something like this. That's nice, but it doesn't work for everyone. And that's the problem with like the nutrition aspect. When it comes to like silent killers, because if you looked back at the last 40, 50 years, you could say it was eggs. Eggs are the bad ones, but now eggs are good nowadays. And, you know, it was like high cholesterol. But no, wait, there's actually some good types of cholesterol nowadays. Or it's the fats, but no, it's the saturated fats or polyunsaturated. Like, it always fucking changes with this stuff. And that's because it goes through more of a phases type thing, and it doesn't really work for everyone. So the data is all messy. The science is all messy. So those ones I go, when it comes to nutrition, I definitely think of along more the lines of general, like, as long as you're not eating stuff with, I don't know, magnesium in it, or chunks of fucking metal, or contaminated with salmonella or something like that, you're probably going to be fine. You just then need to work out what's the optimal diet for you.
Yeah. Like, it's obviously like, there's obvious dumb ways to go about it that would become killers, like flat out killers. Yeah.
You can have silent killers for you, but that's an individual thing that you need to work out and can't be applied broadly. I do want to talk about sugar, though, because you mentioned that at some point. The other one for me, for research, with all of these things, they come out over long periods of time. It takes decades for people to work out, oh, okay, smoking, not good. Lead poisoning, not good. Radiation, not good. Other than maybe like radiation for... I suppose this is one where it's like, if you see people having bad effects or changing their actions and they're more closely linked to it, that's where it can be a bit of an early warning sign. Doctors who operated and were doing things related to, I don't know what, a lung special, a sophiologist or something, I don't know, so a doctor who's related to the lungs and esophagus and things like that, they showed signs of quitting smoking much earlier than doctors in general, because they were seeing the first-hand effects of, oh, okay, there's like tar in people's...
Smoker, this. Yeah.
So that's one of those ones where it's like, okay, if you start hearing of, oh, is this thing dangerous or not? Perhaps doctors studying microplastics, or people in fucking plastic factories. If you start hearing stuff or seeing stuff where they're
same with like silica and other new materials that we're using in factories, right? Like you got silica, titanium, like all aluminium, like say all of these parts, right? It used to be other type of materials that we'd be working with, but now newer factories have got all of those things, right? Again, it's going to be like, is it going to be in 10 years time where like a buildup of silica or aluminium or something else in the body is like, ooh, now that's like real bad, or you got like metal poisoning or something else because of that.
Brand new things coming out as well are worthwhile having a bit of a skeptical take. I think I vaguely recall when vaping was first coming out, it was hailed as, this is going to save so many lives because people aren't smoking cigarettes. It's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe. Like, is it that much better for you? Probably not. It's probably better to just not smoke at all, or not to ingest nicotine at all via smoking. So,
I don't think the nicotine itself is doing anything different, though.
But they're doing it for the nicotine hit, I guess. So when there's, if there was a new product to come out nowadays of like this amazing glue that works really well, or this, new type of nuclear watch that you can have on, or something like this, those are ones where it's like, okay, maybe let some other people try it out for a while first.
Well, it's like brain chip implants, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there's lots of things about it, but again, what are the 5 to 10 years effects of having all of that metal in your brain, or the pulses of electricity going through on a continuous basis? Because again, even if in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, there's not too much of an issue, but what happens at 10 years? What happens in 50 years? Like a lot of people say, like silent killer is going to be phones. In that, we've only got a set amount of data that we're using.
Yeah.
All these electrical, all of the electrical things, and for the last whatever it may be, 20 years. What happens in 50 years? Where if they start coming out and be like, wow, you just like after 40 years, all of that. Yeah. Maybe small amount of radiation or like,
we're all getting hip
waves
cancer.
that are killing it. Yeah. So, that might be one of those silent kills. Like I probably say, I don't know, but I haven't looked into it enough. But there's definitely lots of research that's been done on it. Yeah. That's for sure. And you've got the people who are like, oh, don't put your phone to your ear when you're talking to it, always do on loudspeaker. So
we had this guy in our teacher who taught Juan and I in our ACE class. And I remember one morning he was talking about why he used Bluetooth on his ears, because we were all making fun of him because he looked like an idiot. He's got this fucking Bluetooth thing on it. And he was like, yeah, I don't, like these things are going to kill us. Like I don't like having it near my body. And then he said he would shout into his phone from a distance because he didn't want to put it next to his ear.
That's what I mean. So, is he going to die of loneliness first? Probably. That's the actual silent killer.
Yeah, well, that's probably the thing. The silent killers. Prediction time in 30 years' time, or if we can look back over the next 30, 40 years, will we say there was just as many silent killers as the ones I've been talking about here, which are physical products? Or have we gotten to the point where testing, the scientific method is better?
I think there'll be more.
You think there'll be more?
I think there'll be more. And purely, it's just going to be, again, a numbers thing. It's people are going to be living by default longer. And because of that, there will be more prevalence of things that we never would have seen in the past. So I think, I can't even tell you what it might be, but let's just say if I'm cooking on a barbecue and the barbecue releasing toxins from the metal, right, and you just like get it from the smoke that comes up, maybe they can identify and like, oh yeah, but if you do that for 60 years, then enough buildup of this causes you this problem. Or it could be the buildup of, when you cook toast too much and goes black, or you've got like really black bits on your food. If you do that, but you do it over 60 years, then there's enough buildup of that causes this problem. So I actually think it's going to become more prevalent because we're going to have more people living a little bit longer to show up all of these issues. Yeah. I think that'll be the case.
Okay. Yeah. That's
a good point. That's the same thing with, I think, so from a sugar perspective, I think is sugar in itself bad? No, just like saying, I think red meat in itself is not bad, but to the individual and to the overconsumption of it to a certain degree, that's when you start building up those problems. And some of those problems are not seen until way later down the track. Now, I do think the trend right now is that there's more people consuming more sugars, and not just, again, sugars in itself is like a super simplistic term. You can have fructose, you can have, manufactured type of sugars, you can have non-manufactured types of sugars. It differs.
High fructose
corn syrup. To be specific, it actually, what is dependent there is the length of the sugar molecule or the structure itself. That's the big changes that it does, and how much some of that takes to break down and whatnot is the impact that you see in sugars and your insulin sensitivity. So, do we have problems with insulin sensitivity in the world today? Yes. Do I think it's going to become worse because people are going to be living longer and have more insulin problems? Yes. So I would say, no, that's going to be a silent killer. And to maybe your point, it's like, of anything, maybe that's the one that I'm like, okay, I'm going to be careful around what my daughter eats, in that I'm probably not going to be feeding her tons of sugar early on in her life to try and avoid that insulin problems that might come with that. So, that to me, I think in default, we're going to see more silent killers.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I was thinking we might see just as many, but they're going to be hidden behind other stuff which we're more worried about. Let's take something like VR glasses, and Apple's coming out with this new thing. Oh my god, like it's the headset Pro or whatever. Let's say that becomes like a widely spread, everyone's using it, and I don't think it will, but let's just say it does. A lot of things you might hear is like from the media, like people are spending all their time indoors. They're not connecting with people in real life anymore. You hear all of these social bad things, and then the thing that might actually be getting us is like, let's say just a certain type of light is fucking us up. So I think there'll still be a strong physical component to a lot of these things as we're trying to create more new fancy products for everything. Certainly more consumer based than we were 100 years ago, or at least access to different types of consumer products. There's going to be just more shit around you to touch, to feel. Even just things like this. I look at my water bottle, it's all mangled. The veneer of this paint type thing is fallen off. It's like a little bit of rusty here. Like, is this something that I should be worried about at all? Maybe. I sometimes think about these things, and here's just some of my personal stuff that I've changed over the years. Number one has been a conscious effort to avoid certain types of environments. I used to work in coal mines, and even back then, I remember like I would come home after certain shifts, and I would be like snorting out snot, and it's just this black shit coming out of me. I could even spit, and it would have like this black tinge to it.
Good.
I have no doubt that was bad for me. And coal miner's lung is a known thing.
Yeah.
They try and keep the, particles per level, per volume at certain levels. If it's higher than this, you're meant to wear a face mask and these sorts of things. Even I was following all those practices and whatnot.
Still, yep.
I still don't think it's a good thing if I'm snorting up black shit out of my lungs and things like that. So painting, cleaning, even like if I've got big smells coming at me and I'm painting, like I painted my parents' house, I go, I probably should have worn a mask doing that. But the good thing with a lot of this is it's just a one-off. So
sure, yep,
yeah. Asbestos isn't really that bad.
Unless you're doing a daily, daily removal of it or something.
Same with like going to the beach, and going to the beach is fine once in a while. If you're going there every day and you're getting sunburnt on a weekly basis, that's terrible. Like the sun will get you, the fucking radiation will get you. So things like that. Number one for me would probably be the sugar, because I do have a sweet tooth. I did get given 5 kilos of cake on Tuesday, and I've been working my way through that. It's really good cake.
That's like, again, I don't know what has happened in my life, but for whatever reason, I'm just not a sugar person at all.
Yeah. My brother isn't. He's more of a savory person, so it's like an individual thing. I think my mum was more of a
sweet tooth as well.
Sweet tooth. And my dad said he used to be, and then over the years, like all he eats now is dark chocolate, and like the darker the better. So
okay, yeah. So
perhaps that will change for me.
Yep.
So yeah, I have tried to avoid other things like hair products. Obviously, not a worry for me anymore. But when I did have hair, I'd try and avoid soaps and just a lot of things where I was like, if I'm smearing shit on my body, even sunscreens, I'd try and find like ones with zinc in it and that were less oily. I don't know, like this is so ephemeral and not scientific, but I feel it probably was making like a decent, it's like a decent rule of thumb to avoid putting shit onto your body as much as you can, to not expose yourself to X amount of environments which have a noticeable impact on you, the sunburn, coal dust and stuff like that. So the only other things, I put baking soda under my armpits daily to stop the smell. Is that something that could get me? Am I going to get armpit cancer in 30 years because of that. Maybe.
Don't know, maybe.
That's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah. I think that, look, I think just my whole view on silent killers is that you actually can't get away from toxins. You can't get away from things that actually are detrimental to your body, no matter what you do, unless you are living in a cube with nothing inside of it, right?
And toxins is a very good trigger warning word to look out for when it comes to science, and especially at places like yoga and shit like that.
But this is the thing when it says like when you see like a juice theory and it's like, hey, this is detoxifying. Shut the fuck up.
100%.
Right? So like a toxin is something that comes into contact with the body or is ingested that is in some way, shape or form toxic. And guess what? A whole host of things are, right? That's like if you have an overconsumption of potassium, that's toxic. If you have an overconsumption of magnesium, that's toxic. If you have an underconsumption of these things, it's toxic, right? So you can have lots of like you can have the smog, right? Toxic. If all of these things are toxic, and so there's toxins in the body, but the process of detoxifying, and again, it's not because you fucking just drink carrot juice, dickheads,
or you sweat it out.
Yeah, like
in the yoga studio.
Right, detoxifying is done by things like your liver. That's a detoxifying process in that it picks up all of these toxics. So think alcohol. You ingest alcohol, it has things that are not fantastic for the body. The liver grabs it all out and then it excretes it out. That's you detoxifying. So I think the silent killers, and so what I was going to attach it with is I actually think it's going to be just the progression of technology and the advancements of life are going to introduce all these silent killers because we're going to tip somehow, some way over the barrier of what generally your body can do. As in, if we were all living in a very simplistic way, like we're living in the farmlands and everything else, yes, there's other things that kill you, yes. But if everything was going fine on like the new standards of health and living and cleanliness and water, pollution and all of that, I think you would really be able to live quite a long time because the generalness of your body's ability to just excrete things will continue as long as you're sleeping well, eating relatively well, and keeping yourself in a motion-filled world. Fantastic. But I think the advancements of technology will just introduce, as you say, all these varying new ways of technology or things that we interact with that either A, we haven't done before, or it just starts to become more than your body generally uses to be able to process. And so like once that load hits, and this is on like environmental things, once it goes beyond that, your system's ability to get rid of it, I think that buildup of whatever it is will just create problems. And some, I'm sure, will create like the silent killers. So it'll be like, oh my God, it's that load up of all of these that just kill it. I'm sure your body does process microplastics out. Maybe, okay, and maybe it doesn't, but maybe once upon a time when there was less of them in the world, plastics in the world, it was kind of like a non-concern because, okay, yes, you build up. Maybe you don't get rid of them, but it's just so few and far between that it doesn't really matter. But if it moves now to a world where, let's just not say it's plastic, let's say it's titanium or aluminium, and somehow you do, it does corrode a little bit and you ingest aluminium, and after 70 years, you're gone because too much aluminium. It's going to be like the advancement of all the things we use that are just different to what has existed that will come up slowly and get us. Yeah,
you could think from all of that, I'll just go natural. Everything natural, that'll help me stave me off from all of these silent killers, shit in all of these products, fucking flaking, rust.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You go live that lifestyle, and what do you get? You get fucking mad cow disease because there's you're fucking on the farm, you're eating that, and then next thing you know, you've got like what was that? It was like a brain bacteria or something that would fuck up your brain if you got
mad cow disease.
Yeah, if you eat a cow that has mad cow disease, so. That's a silent killer as well. It's just really fast compared to a lot of these slow ones. So I think that's why I say I've got like a naturalistic bent to me. Like if I can get something that's natural in a certain extent, I will. But I'm under no illusion that most of this natural stuff is just as like there's going to be trade-offs with that as well.
For sure. Like my summary is, what can you do about silent killers? Honestly, not much. If they are silent killers and we really don't know about them, you're not doing. Yeah. But the things you can control is maximize your ability for your system to be great and healthy to process things. And to do that, it's sleep well, train lots, eat relatively well for whatever that means to your body. Obviously, don't do the stupid things that then will encourage, if it feels slightly dicey, it probably is in some way. Again, if you're still coal mining, there's probably gonna be some other problems that come up out of it just beyond that. If you're ingesting a kilo of sugar per day,
if
sure, it's going to come up with some problems.
If you spend so much time sitting down at your job that when you get up in the evenings or like after work and your back hurts or your ass hurts or you're like that's probably not good for you. If you stare at a screen so long that your eyes start to hurt, it's probably not good for you either.
Yeah, correct. So I think there's loads of tiny habits and things that you can do that help you out. I think that's honestly the only thing. So again, if I had to research about silent killers to come, I think my answer would be more so, I don't think I would waste my time
trying to predict them.
I think I would just spend more time on, okay, well, how can you have the healthiest body now and continue that for I'm sure what will happen of some other things to pop up that are silent killers, and just kind of hope and pray that you've kept yourself in a state that your body has been able to process and work through that as best as it can.
Agreed. I don't think that listening to the media, mainstream media, and even not only mainstream media, but just media in general, even the small podcasters and stuff like that, they will go off on fucking unhinged rants about the most bullshit, insane things. There's the small ones. And then the big mainstream media will get a whole shit ton of stuff wrong as well. So trying to spend any time filtering it out of this is good or this is bad I wouldn't make that an active effort. It'd be like a passive thing. If I hear in 5 years' time, there's some concerns about the light source from X device doing something to your eyes. Okay, maybe that's something I'll like spend a little bit of time on, but
like, to give you like an example, I was going to listen to a podcast from Peter a long time back that was like 3 hours on sunscreen. I listened to a little bit of it, but I kind of went, again, like,
do I use enough sunscreen? Is this really going to be impactful? Like, I don't believe so in my way of living. So, but again, if you're going to the beach every single day, okay, maybe get yourself trained up and understood on that sort of things. I think it'd probably be whatever you do a lot of, that as well.
Like tune in on that and to help you out. Is it maybe potentially I'm getting like metal off the barbell that I use all the time, and like that's going to create problems?
If you're addicted to tuna and fish and you eat that for every single meal of every single day,
yes, you're going to get mercury poisoning and you're going to have some bad times. Yes.
So things like that.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll leave it there. I don't know if there's any comments at all that have come through while we're having a chat. No. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in again to this Musing Sessions. We go live at 9 a.m. on Sunday. It is 31st of August. So if you want to rock up and have a conversation with us, feel free to do so. If you've been listening to this after the fact, feel free to come live. Yeah. All the good things. Share. If you want to try out some Boostagrams, you can. Use all the good apps out there. mereimmortals.com/support.
Mereimmortal Podcasts.
Mereimmortalpodcasts.
But you can put one in and it'll
correct. So you can, if you want to just see how that interacts as well, you can do that.
Yep. Sounds good.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Meimmortalites. Be well. Bye now.
Current out. Bye.